Okay, so we are now moving on to the first session of today, which is our panel about Trailblazers. We have some amazing women lined up for you, 4 amazing panelists who have each been pioneers in their chosen field. These women come from all different walks of life, ranging from entrepreneurs to high-powered executives. So let's join this session now to hear from these trailblazers about how they've navigated some of the challenges that every one of us faces in this modern day living. Moderating this panel today is Janaki. Janaki is a global account manager at NetApp. A little known fact about Janaki is that she played soccer for the Indian women's team and represented India in international tournaments. She describes herself as a hardworking dreamer with a never-ending to-do list and a citizen of the world who loves to engage with the universe. Janaki, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Priya. Can you guys hear me well now?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, wonderful. So I'm excited to be here, just like many of us. And women today are trailblazers, right? They are more career ambitious and financially independent than ever before. So it's my pleasure and honor to be with these amazing women trailblazers who have found their voice and propelled in their careers. So thank you, ladies, for investing your Saturday morning with us. With that said, and I would like to start some introductions going. If I were to introduce everybody, I would not be doing justice because everybody has multiple pages of bios. So I will let them introduce a little bit about their background. And to add some fun fact to it, why don't you just state a fun fact about you guys?
Absolutely. Should I go first?
Oh, yes, please. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sonia Palia. There is a lot of fun fact in the sound.
Are you okay now? Can you hear me here as well?
Yes, I can try and start again. I think the feedback is from you, Janaki, is the message. Maybe you can mute while we're speaking, perhaps?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Let's start again. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sonia Palia. I'm a marketing executive. My specialty is building revenue at SaaS startups in the Silicon Valley. I lead a dual life. I am the board president of the nonprofit Maitri. I've been involved with Maitri for 27 years. I'm also a VC, a founding LP at a women-led venture fund, and I mentor startup founders at 2 accelerators. A fun fact about me, I cook a lot. I'm on my 4th cuisine. I actually make my corn tortillas from scratch after a trip to Mexico City. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
That's exciting. So I'm going to reach out offline about your recipes and stuff like that. That's a great stuff, Sonia. Now, Renu.
Well, thank you, everyone. And first of all, I want to say it's an honor to be here with all these women. So I think we all need to be the strong women. We need to mentor them and raise them. So for me, it's very important. So thank you for inviting me here. So I'm the founder of Genius Kids as well as Win with Words. I started this vision of developing leadership and confidence in children 20 years ago. And now we have 30 franchises in the Bay Area and now expanding to the rest of the nation, hopefully. And fun fact about me, let me see. Fun fact about me. I love being a grandma. I never thought that I would want to be a parent again. I thought I was done with my 2 girls, but being a grandma is another elevation in life. So all those out there who fear being a grandma, call me and I'll give you an experience of a day with the 2 that I have.
That's amazing, Renu, that, the minute we started talking, you sent me your grandkids' pictures and said, this is what my world is these days. I can completely hear you say, how you enjoy with your grandkids. It's amazing. Thank you for being with us today. And Michelle, would you like to go next?
Yes, great to be here, Michelle. I'm the founder and CEO of Slate Advisors. We're a scalable leadership and career transition coaching firm. I'm based in Silicon Valley and started my career actually in financial services. So I've seen a lot of different industries and sizes of companies in my career. And fun fact, I have 2-year-old and 4-year-old boys, and they bring out a different side of me. So on any given day, you can find me on a scooter alongside my son, or in the kitchen doing a craft. So it's fun to have them to bring that out in me.
That's awesome, Michelle. Definitely kids do bring the best and worst in us. Trust me, I have two daughters. So definitely, we all have experienced that, and more good, I hope, and than the worst. And Radhika.
Yeah, hi Janaki. Good morning, everyone. Very excited to be here and actually very thrilled to be among this group of very accomplished women. Just a little bit of quick background on myself. I've actually been in tech for over 2 decades now. The last 10 to 15 years managing tech businesses. And fun fact about me, our family loves to travel. So, since we had our daughter, we've been to about 30 countries and still counting.
Traveling is definitely I just put travel as my bucket list, and it's a never ending list. Like Priya mentioned about I do have a never ending to do list. One of that is this traveling. So it's amazing that you visited 30 countries. That's awesome. That's one of my dreams. Okay, so without further ado, we can just jump into the panel. The Trailblazer, the name itself is like, oh wow, happy to be with all of you wonderful ladies here. Let's start off with this COVID situation here, right? Everybody is talking about COVID. COVID is the talk of the hour right now. So life is hard for everyone during a pandemic, right? But in global crisis, it's women we carry a lot more burdens. Women are 51% of the population, single, partnered, or caregivers, or breadwinners, right? There's been a lot of hard things that we do, and then, COVID not only did the bad things, but also did some good for us, we're spending time with the families and all that. So I would like to hear from you, ladies. What has been the hardest part during this COVID, or what has been the best part, right? These two are we can just talk about it. And then how do we navigate through this, right? This has become the next new norm. So what is next phase is going to look like? I know this is a lot of questions, but it's one question. So Renu, since you have a business in a small business and then 30 franchises, it's not any longer a small one. But in your personal study, what impact did it have on your business? Let's start with you.
So, it's so strange. Somebody asked me the same question last night, and I was sitting pondering and saying, how am I going to address this? And I came up with this, I read this quote by Robin Sharma, which I think is going to probably answer everyone's question. He says, as you move outside your comfort zone, what was once the unknown and frightening becomes your new normal. And what I can tell you is our childcare industry has been severely impacted. And I really hope that all those who are listening who have children out there will be very sensitive to their daycare providers. My role right now is not only as a CEO to all the franchisees who I have to motivate, I'm also a business owner. So I have to also motivate myself every morning. And it has been very disheartening, I will be honest with you. When March 16th, when the shelter in place kicked in, we all thought, this is going to be a 2-week thing, or it's going to be 4 weeks. And so what did I do in those 4 weeks? This is about the one good thing that came out of it is I wrote a book. Since I was at home and I thought this is just going to be 4 weeks and I couldn't go anywhere, I decided to write a book. So that's been the one positive point that came out of it is I have a book that's become a bestseller. So thank you, COVID, but only thank you for that. That's it. Only for the 4 weeks. The rest has been a real roller coaster. And I would be lying if I said it's not difficult. It's very hard every morning to get up because, every time you turn on the television, there's something new. And the industry has been impacted so severely because we cannot keep as many kids as we used to. So if a room had 24, you're down to 10, but yet you have to increase your staff. And the amount of supplies and the amount of just regulations we have to follow, we are in the red. I mean, I would be surprised if anybody said that they are going to be profitable during this time. It's difficult. And my message to everybody is simply, and even to my franchisees, is we just simply have to hold out, and we just have to be able to learn to adjust to this and build confidence not only within ourselves, but we have to build confidence within the customers, because I really feel that the media also overrates and provides only negative information. And you have to be able to look at where your source of information is. So I get parents, like now with this shutdown that we're getting, parents coming to the door yesterday and asking me, how do I know that your teachers are not going to be, gallivanting around? And unfortunately, the question always comes back to us as a business owner. So I point the finger right back and say, well, don't worry about us gallivanting around. How do I know you're not going to be gallivanting around? It's teamwork, right? So I think we've been severely impacted, but I really feel that even if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you have to be able to turn that light on yourself. And you just have to move forward. And if we can sustain ourselves just for a few more months, those who can sustain this will come out a winner, because unfortunately, there are a lot of people that cannot. And then hopefully you can get a piece of that business. I mean, it's not a very nice thing to say, but that's the nature of what life is all about. So it's difficult every morning it's a challenge, but I just go there. And I think one of the most amazing things is seeing those little faces, to even see 2-year-olds actually behave better than adults. I have 2-year-olds that will automatically come in with their masks and stand next to get the temperatures, wait for them to be disinfected with their shoes, and then go to classroom. I can't get adults to, I can't see adults doing that, but I can see my 2-year-olds. So then there's hope for this country when I say that. And the other message is for everybody out there today. I think it's very important for us to take the responsibility to develop leadership in our children, because that's the only hope for this country, is really to have good leaders. So I hope I answered your question, Janaki.
Oh my God, this is a lot of stuff that you covered in that question. And definitely, Renu, you touched upon few very, very crucial things that we're going to be talking about in the panel today. The confidence, how do we sustain ourselves? Mm-hmm. And as a business owner, what are the challenges that you have? This is amazing. But I want to just ask Sonia about how that affected her in her corporate world. And, Sonia, you and I talked recently, and there has been some change in your job. And it is not just about the business owners. People like very established people like you have been impacted in a way. How did you sustain? How did you just come about? It'll be fantastic to hear from you.
So, I was one of my job at a SaaS startup. Now, startups, are different beasts. And I was one of the ones who was impacted within 2 weeks of the pandemic. And of course, intellectually, I know when I play the startup game, and I'm a startup junkie, I go from startup to startup, this is going to happen. But here's the thing, that if you are not prepared, which is what Renu touched on, which is about confidence, resilience, a plan, it is very difficult to dig yourself out. Like everyone else, I thought, 2 months, 3 months. It has never taken me more than maybe 6 weeks to find an executive level job. It took me 6 months. But I had a plan. I'm not saying it was easy. I'm not saying I was not tormented. I had a plan. I made a plan on how I was going to look for a job. What was my bronze, silver, gold job? And my job was to look for a job. And that's what I did every single morning. I got up and I looked for a job. I networked with people. But the other thing that I did, which I highly encourage everyone to think about, is how could I help other people on their way? And typically I mentor maybe one woman a month. I do this as a way of giving back. This is besides my Maitri work in the corporate life. I mentored something like 27 women during the last 6 months. It took me 6 months and 2 days to land a job, which is amazing. I'm really excited about the job. I've been there 5 weeks. But I will say that it is an opportunity and a problem when something like this happens. And you can look at it as the glass half full or glass half empty. It's not easy. Every morning I got up and I went to my desk at 8 o'clock, and this is how I dressed up. And people would get onto Zoom with me and laugh and say, "You don't have a job." And I said, yeah, the reason is I get up, I take a shower, I dress up, and I come down and I'm in my office till 5 o'clock. And I'm helping other people, I'm helping myself. And it is so critical at these times to show the personal leadership that you have accrued to other people so you can help them also. So that's my
It's brilliant, Sonia. This is something that we're going to definitely talk about, the confidence and then mentorship and showing up not just for anybody else, showing up for yourself, right? Getting dressed up and being in front of the Zoom. I also do that. Like, even if there is not mandated to have like a camera turned on, it gives me motivation to just get dressed up and then go show. And you dress up well and you show up, and the confidence, it's just internally it just builds that confidence. It's a confidence booster if we look good. And Michelle and I were talking about it. Michelle, in addition to dressing up well and all that, you talked about like exercising and all this stuff. What's your experience on how did you stay afloat in this pandemic?
Yeah, so one of the big takeaways I've had is you've got to take care of yourself. And that can be exercising, that can be meditating, that can be relaxing, whatever it looks like for you. But what I recognized in myself is that I was really viewing it as a zero-sum game. That if I took time to exercise, for instance, that was time that I was taking away from my work. And it's not true. So what I found is when I started exercising in the morning before my boys woke up, which is time I would usually spend hopping on my laptop to do work, I actually was finding myself more energized and more productive in my day. So I think the important thing to remember is it's not a zero-sum game, and that taking care of yourself is actually important for your productivity as well.
That's brilliant. I think all of us wanted to hear, like, we talked about confidence. So let's start off with our first questions with this confidence thing, right? Everyone aspires to be at a point in their life where we are confidently say that it is, I can find my next gig. For example, like, Sonia talked about how she was able to get her next job within 6 weeks. And not everybody is, that confident, right? So a lot of us are, still struggling with, what's my next gig going to be, right? But it's no longer about a job. It's more about being confident. In general, women are more competent and hardworking, and we outpace men at school. I'm sorry, guys, but we do outpace men at school. So, having established that, why is it so difficult to keep up the confidence later on our lives, right? Radhika, I would like to ask you this question, so we can start with this. What challenges have you experienced as as a woman in leadership, right? How did you how did you overcome these challenges? And how can you just keep the momentum going, like what you were very confident in this, the school girls and then to a leader, and continue keeping up the confidence? Radhika, can you hear?
Yeah, no, great question, Janaki. And it is very true, right? And there have been countless studies that have been done that repeatedly show men are much more willing to step up. So if you post a job description, if men feel like they can check 50% of the boxes, they will apply. And women will not consider themselves eligible for that role unless they check, almost 100% of it, right? And so unfortunately, the bar tends to be much higher. And the first suggestion I would make is lower the bar, right? And allow yourself the discomfort of walking into something where you may not have all the answers figured out right away. It may take you a while to and assemble a support system that will help you be successful in your role. But allow yourself the discomfort of walking into something where you're not the topmost expert. One other thing that I see women often do is just not projecting themselves well enough to where they not only does it breed internal confidence, it also gives off the impression that women can deliver on what is being asked for. And so I would say it's a combination of things. One is lower the bar, take the stretch assignment, the more you do stretch assignments, and the more confidence you can build up as you take those on and as you successfully execute against those, your confidence continues to compound, right? And then the third thing I would say is, there are interesting techniques like, there is neuro-linguistic programming techniques. And I've actually sat through some of these sessions, right, where the way that you project yourself. I mean, Sonia talked about dressing up in the morning and feeling that inner confidence. And so the more you can have that come through in your body language and the way that you're sitting with an erect posture and so on, the more that confidence transcends into what you do on a day-to-day basis, right? So yes, I think when you start out at school and college, there is this feeling that you can accomplish everything. You move into a work life, conflicting priorities take over, and so the key here is to make sure that you're still able to allow yourself the discomfort of taking on many things and doing them all.
That's amazing. Like, Renu, what do you think about how to keep up the confidence? Like, you have come a long way. So
just like I said when I started the show, not only do you want to be the strong woman, you have to raise them. And I really strongly feel that confidence really starts right from the day you're born. And as parents, if you can instill confidence in your daughters, and, we're on a South Asian platform, so I'll share this. We have a tendency as being South Asian to keep telling our children, our daughters, that once you get married, you have this responsibility, you have to do this, you have to do all of this. That's not true. I don't understand why we can't raise our men to also be in the kitchen and cook and clean and take care of the babies as well. So I really feel confidence starts from day one. And if we can instill confidence in our daughters to believe they can do anything and everything they want and continue to do that, and not create this stereotyped Indian woman that has to go out there and also, give up all her dreams in her career just because she gets married. No, I think that's one. And secondly, the second important part of confidence is when we decide to settle down, if you decide to settle down, that's another thing. Not every woman has to settle down and have a life partner. So that's another stereotype, because sometimes those life partners will kill your confidence. I think it's very important for us women to make sure that we bring on a partner that's going to continue to elevate your confidence and allow you to be who you want to be. So for me, confidence starts from day one. And if you didn't get that opportunity when in the household you were growing in, then it's not too late. And as Radhika mentioned, you can go to these programs, and even as Sonia has mentioned, take care of yourself. You don't need to have wear expensive clothes to look good in the morning. You can just dress up, put some makeup on, but feel good about yourself. And most importantly, love yourself. Don't rely on other people to endorse you. You should endorse yourself, and that will be your confidence in itself. So when I do something, I don't ask other people what they think. I may get a few opinions, but then at the end of the day, let me tell you, a woman's instinct is so strong. Go with your instincts and you get all the confidence you want right from there.
You couldn't have said it better, Renu. Like, showing up for yourself, right? And the confidence, don't expect for others' endorsement. You start believing in yourself, and confidence manifests in that way, right? You believe in yourself, the confidence keeps. This is for people who are at home and stuff like that. But like when we start working, or we just take a break, or get laid off, and then getting back into the work stream has been a biggest challenge, especially during this COVID time and all that. And Sonia, that you've been on that journey recently. So what are some things that you can do to overcome that fear of losing something and getting back? And what was going on in your mind? And how did you say that, okay, 6 weeks and 7 weeks, I'll get right back in? What did you do to boost that confidence?
I'm very happy to talk about this. I'm very passionate about the way we present ourselves, especially Indian women. And before I answer this question, I want to add to what Renu said. I think you can't be everything to everyone. You have to decide your priorities. So when I was scaling my career and my daughter was very young, I had a nanny for her. And I know I was judged that I was not the one driving her to places and doing her activities. I decided I was not being her driver was not my choice at all. And, having a supportive partner is very important, but you also need to take a stand and say, what is important for you? I had a rule, people laughed at it, but it worked for me, which was I would not drive her to classes. I would get the teachers to come to my house. And if she had to go somewhere else, I hired somebody to drive her. I hired a nanny to drive her. And I think women in particular think we are required to do everything. Men don't. And I think if we have to stop doing this, that we are responsible for cooking and cleaning and every single piece of it. It consumes and fritters away our time. And so when I got laid off, and I got up in the morning and, I was shook up because the pandemic was something I'd never experienced. I made this plan. And as I said earlier, that I made this plan and I every day showed up at my desk. But my plan was not just the job that I was searching for, but part of my plan was also learning. I think in this environment, it's no longer true of who you know. What is required is what you know. And so I used a large part of the day, 3 or 4 hours, to do learning. There are free webinars, as I think Ram pointed out. There's so much content out there. And I used that time to learn. I bought books. I talked to people. I networked. I asked for coffee meetings without asking for a job. The thing is, once you start building out this network of people who support you, you will get that confidence. And it requires commitment. It requires a prioritization, even in the time of losing a job. And I gave myself 12 months. I thought, first I said to myself 3 months, right? And I was like, okay, no. Then I realized there was going to be much, much longer. But developing a schedule and following through on it, that is your job. Your job is not to be doing the laundry and not to be doing all of these other things. And I personally feel that me in my career, I have a lot of priorities. And so I'm not willing to do things that I feel fritter away my time. So really prioritize. And you know what? Make your children lay the table, clean the dishwasher, do the laundry. I don't understand why we as women have to do everything for our children. Empower them. That's my question.
That's amazing, Sonia, that, something that I can really take it for personally myself. When we are not required to do something, for example, that when you don't have to show up for work, we try to take it for granted. Okay, fine, I'm not going to show up for work. What not? Right now, let me do something else. And we are not taking that thing seriously. Okay, we need a job, and how do I stay, and do things just like how I just show up for work. 9 to 5 job, 9 to 5 job. So what will I do to get back into that? And what are the things that I need? Amazing. I have been there, and if I, take some time off, I said, okay, I don't have to really go to the monitor. I don't have to do these things. But I think it's important that we all focus on the schedule and, having like a regular schedule and having a calendar and prioritizing what's important for us and do that. And Mission, I really want to, ask you this. What can you share with our audience, the journey that you have taken to get you where you are today? Because you are the one who you started the business recently and stuff like that. So what really worked for you?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit more about my story. So I had a lot of early career success, and then my confidence took a hit with a layoff. So I was part of a startup that didn't raise its next round of funding, and everyone was laid off with the exception of one small team. And it was out of that experience that I started my company Slate. And the first year was really hard. And I found that I actually gained confidence when I realized that failure was going to be okay. If I failed, that was going to be okay. That I would not be a failure if my business were to fail. And it was in a dark moment of that first year where a friend of mine from business school told me that even if my business folded, she would consider it a success because my business had helped people and I had personally learned a ton and grown as a leader. And that was a really big aha for me, to separate my own sense of identity from the outcome of my business. So that was a huge shift in where I was finding my confidence.
Michelle, this is amazing. Separating yourself from your own identity from the outcome, I think this is spot on, because, like, if the outcome can, if it is not what you expected, this can like completely ruin the confidence that you built, right? So it's amazing that you're able to do that, and I'm still struggling to get to
I
that
want
point.
to interject here, Janaki.
Sure.
I wanted to interject and say, I think one important thing, I think, as women, I'm not sure which young lady mentioned this earlier, that we all want to be super women, right? And I think one of the biggest problems we have is we don't know how to leave situations when they're not good for us. We don't have the confidence to exit. So yes, it's unfortunate people get laid off, but sometimes you're in situations where you just have to call it quits, whether it's a personal relationship or it's a business. And I think that's very important for women sometimes to just say, hey, I'm calling it quits, and just try something new. And that fear of the unknown, whether it's a personal relationship, leaving a marriage, or a boyfriend, or whatever it may be, or a job, if you're in a hostile situation at work, or even a business right now with COVID, and many businesses that may not make it. It's okay to say, I did my best, I've tried everything, and then cut your losses. And I think that's very important. And as women, we try and fix everything, and that's not possible always. So you just got to call it quits at times.
That's wise advice, Renu. So while we're on the topic, I'm just going to touch about taking risk and when to call it quits and stuff like that. I was going to talk about networking, but I'll just park it for a second. Taking risk and doing what we really truly care for, right? A lot of times we come to the fork in the road. The few times we don't even realize we're at the junction of the fork, right? And standing there, or sometimes we ignore that as well. So then you realize which part that you need to go, and then you take that. So having said that, if there is one thing that you would have done differently to get to where you are today, what would that be? Renu, since you touched upon that thinking,
I would have started Genius Kids 30 years ago, or maybe 40 years ago instead of 20 years ago. I would have probably, I wish I could have started Genius Kids a lot earlier. The courage to, even that, it took me a long time to have the courage to, I've been self-employed for years, but to go into a venture where it was going to be signing a lease and doing that was a big step. And I did that 20 years ago. And I wish I'd done that a lot earlier. And even now, people ask me, you're being hit so hard by the COVID. Don't you regret it? No, not at all, because the 20 years has been an amazing journey. And I still know that if we can just tweak a few things, we can still continue to make it work.
So I'm happy also to answer this question, part of this, because I changed my career. I'm on my third career. I'm not sure what is my fourth career going to be, but I'm preparing for it, even though I don't know. So I came up with this model for myself. And if I had this model that I have now for the last 10 years, I would have changed my career 20 years ago. And the model that I have is that you've got to always sort of be thinking, what next in the next 10, 12 years? Most of us reach a wall and then we start panicking and trying to figure out what to do. Right. And I did that. And my hairstyle, my career, I changed from engineering into marketing. If I had really known what I know right now, I would have done this much earlier, because I didn't have this process by which I was thinking. And number one is always to think ahead, that what next? The second is to become a constant learner. And constant learner means learn things that interest you, that excite you, read widely, talk to interesting people. And then the third thing is to be passionate and committed to the journey. And what happens with that, if you have these three pieces together, when that opportunity comes, you never need to say, oh, I'm not ready for it. And I think, Janaki, you made this point that when that opportunity arrives, perhaps you're like, wait, I don't have that skill set, or I don't have that transition to make. But you can then stop that job you hate, or restart your career or change directions. So really, really important always to be thinking ahead. Of course, there'll be moments where you'll have some downtime and you'll say, I don't have the energy, or I have another commitment, or perhaps there's a family situation, etc. But always having this long horizon in front of you and treating it as an adventure is really important.
Janki, this is Radhika. I'll go ahead and add my 2 cents as well. So I think a lot of this comes, the taking the fork in the road comes down to your definition of success, right? And what it looks like. And it doesn't have to match somebody else's definition of success. I mean, this is a realization that I came to some time back, which is there isn't a single path that leads you to where you want to be, right? I mean, you need to do the introspection. You need to understand what your metrics of happiness and success are, and pursue that path. And that gives you the confidence inherently to take risks and go down the path less trodden, so to speak.
Thank you so much for that, Radhika. And I want to just take a moment to, address our audience. If they have any questions to any one of the panelists, please feel free to post the questions in the chat. And we have a moderator. We have a person who's closely monitoring the chat session. Definitely, we'll ask these questions to take these questions to the panelists. So we talked about confidence. We talked about taking risk and stuff like that. And this is something that I personally struggle with. All of us struggle with at some point in our life, right? It's about women won't just a second. Women, we won't succeed without the formal and informal support networks. To reinforce the women's self-belief and self-advocacy, there needs to be a blend of workplace and personal relationships and support. Renu did talk about, having a spouse support or a family member that you live with. And I would just take a little bit extension to, our close friends and the people that we trust at our work and stuff like that. So prior to COVID, I'm an avid networker, and I network relentlessly. That I go to all these conferences, and then we do that. But in general, women, we don't do that, right? So when we get 2 hours extra time, say, oh, let me go back home and take care of my kids and take care of the, laundry or whatever, pending work that we go shopping, whatever it is. Men take that time to network, and COVID has not made it any easy. So what do you guys do? What are some of the things that you do? One, to network, and two, in the COVID situation, how do you network in virtual worlds? So Sonia, we'll just start with you.
Okay. So again, I'm going to say that, if you are really determined to have a powerful, successful career, you've got to commit to it. It's not something you can say, I'm on, I'm off. And the other thing is that you've got to be intentional. I don't do many things other people do, because my priority really is Maitri, and it's my career. It used to be my daughter and my husband. And my husband would sometimes jokingly say, hey, I'm on the bottom of the list. And I would say, you're on the list. You should be glad. You could be off the list also. But jokes aside, I think you have to be very intentional. You have to test out many networks before you realize where you fit. And it necessarily is not a Desi network or a woman network or a startup network. You've got to test and try many of these. And you have to commit time. And it's not just what you get out of that network. Remember, what you offer other people. So it's not a prescriptive transaction that you want to do, that, oh, I need to network, so let me talk to Janaki and see how can she help me. In the end, it's about also giving back. I find the problem right now, actually, COVID has actually been a blessing in networking, because everyone's home, nobody's commuting. You can do a 15-minute call, reach out. If you get rebuffed, that is a person that's not going to network with you. Reach out to people. For example, I'm an open connector on LinkedIn. People ask me, so long as they're not selling me anything, I'm happy to chat with them for 10 minutes. There are amazing women's organizations, Parlay, Alpha. There's the Women in Product. There is a marketing association. There is Lunch Club. Join these, do the 15-minute calls, and share your knowledge. Become that trusted advisor yourself, and don't dismiss what you have. I can 100% guarantee, if you're hearing this, listening to us, you have something to offer. And then always go with this idea of how can you help somebody else also. And you will start to find this flourishing network building around you.
That's a great suggestion, Sonia. So building network and having this regular cadence, like, networking is important. And, this is definitely going to help us find the mentor. So networking leads into certain aspects of finding a right mentor for you, and that mentor becoming a sponsor for you. So these are all, like, the effects of, you're going to be sitting here and not connecting with people. Other people don't even know what you want, right? So I think it's a great point that you talked about. And you did talk about mentoring. I'll just come to that in a second. But I want to talk to Michelle about how does she network and what are some of the things worked best for her.
Yeah. So first off, I loved and want to echo what Sonia shared. And when I think about networking, I think about the importance of both loose ties of the broader networking, but also the importance of being strategic about your inner circle of networking and thinking about who are the different types of people who you need in your inner circle to empower your success. And one of the concepts that I've personally found valuable is called the personal boardroom. And there's an author named Zella King who wrote a book about this. And just to preview a few of the areas she talks about, who will inspire you with new ideas and fresh thinking? Who in your network can fill that role? Or who will endorse you in your ideas? Back to that concept of sponsorship. Or who will connect you with people who can help you? Who will give you candid, constructive feedback so that you can develop yourself? And who's going to keep you grounded, not only in your work, but in your life? And I think the important thing to take away from that is it's not going to be a single person. It won't be a single mentor who's going to fill all of those roles. It's not going to be only your manager. It's not going to be one best friend. Certainly not going to just be your spouse. So being thoughtful about who are the people that you really want to invest in building those deeper relationships with, which is a key part of networking as well.
Michelle, that's amazing because it's the first time that I hear about the loose network and then the strategic network, I network. So it's something to really, really think about. So Radhika, so how are you networking in this virtual world? So Sonia did talk about, like, having a coffee meeting, like virtual coffee meet, and then, invite people over and talk to them. How have you been successful with that? And what are the challenges that you face? When do you think that you're not talking and you're whether you're contributing or whether you're receiving, right? So when do you feel that you're not stalking or you, like, you come across as a genuine person? What's your thoughts on those? Radhika?
No, great question, Janki. So, are you able to hear me okay? Sorry about the audio difficulties at my end. So I think both Sonia and Michelle made some great points, right? And in these COVID times, when you can't actually get together face to face with somebody for a cup of coffee or lunch, the best bet is to continue to apply some of those same principles, right? And be very strategic in the way that you approach things. Oftentimes, people get turned off when you're networking when it's purely transactional, right? You reach out to them because you have one particular thing that you want addressed at that point, right? And that could be you're on the market for a job. You reach out to somebody in your contact circle that might be able to help you, and then you don't stay in touch with them any longer. So that is generally not good form. So the one thing I would say is, even in these COVID times, be very strategic and keep in mind, as Sonia and Michelle pointed out, I mean, it's got to be a mutually beneficial relationship. It's also helpful to, as you come across interesting, news items, or let's say, somebody in your connections is posted some update about himself or herself, to reach out and acknowledge that, right? Congratulate that person, or let them know that you take a note and you wish them well. So keep having an ongoing mechanism, and there are so many different communication avenues available to us these days, right? So, you have text messaging and phone and email and WhatsApp and what have you. So taking the time to engage with your network in a way that is truly, convenient for the other party and is conducive to that back and forth communication becomes very, very critical, right? And this isn't just about virtual coffees. I think that they're great, and you should do that to the extent that you can. But taking the time to engage one on one, as well as there are all these forums. As Sonia pointed out, whether you're in product management, it's a functional area. There are forums around. Maybe you're the group that you want to belong to, and so actively getting involved in those and investing the time in it as well helps a lot with staying in touch.
I do have a resource to suggest. So if you are really struggling to create a networking plan, there is a phenomenal book called The Startup of You by Reid Hoffman. He is the founder of LinkedIn. I thought I was a 5-star networker. When I read that book, I was like, oh, I'm an amateur compared to him. What I love is that at the end of every chapter, he has 10 things you should be thinking about doing. Even if you do one out of each of those chapters, I think you will have an amazing strategy to network.
Okay. Brilliant point. These are some things that we can. Can you talk about some places where women can network, or some they need to stay on top of these things? A lot of things are out there, right? What are some of the areas that they can go and join and develop these networking or get some help?
So I think in terms of networking organizations, the other three young ladies, Radhika, Michelle, and Sonia probably can give better advice on that. But I'm the kind of person, I'll network wherever I go. I'm one of these people, if I walk into a room, I'm not going to go into my little comfort zone of a social circle. I'm going to look around the room and I'm going to find somebody I don't know. And I always make an effort. My goal is wherever I go, and it's not about asking for help or anything like Radhika mentioned, it's got to be a two-way relationship. I always make an effort to, my goal is when I come back home, I should have met at least 2 or 3 people that I didn't know before. So that's my idea of networking. I go out there, I get to know people. And now not everybody is going to be someone you want to bring into your little, inner zone, but make the effort. And I find that we have a tendency to get into a comfort zone of just going into parties or events and just finding our little group and sticking in those groups. I don't believe in groups at all. I teach my students the same thing. I tell students, now, of course, they can't sit next to each other, but the theory at Genius Kids has always been, don't sit with the same person every day. Go sit with someone new and then ask them who they are and learn about them, So I feel that's one of the best ways to network. And I think, as Sonia mentioned, COVID has been another good thing about COVID is learn to use Zoom and now StreamYard and get to know people. It's actually easy. You don't have to sit in your car in traffic anymore. You can just grab a drink like Sonia and I were doing yesterday in the evening and talking. So I feel and even teach your children that. Start grooming your kids. We're already doing it. We're learning it, but start grooming your kids to make new friends and learn more about people. Learn something about them and add that to your list.
So Renu, this is amazing because we talked about networking. You covered the entire spectrum into the networking because putting yourself into the uncomfortable situation. So don't go and look at the familiarity or that he looks like me, she looks like me, or oh, I know them from that, right? Go and talk to somebody that you've never met with, right? So that's your first taking risk. Will that person talk to me? So taking the risk and putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, and then when you start talking, you build the confidence. Yeah, he's talking to me, he's responding. Why did I think? We all have this imposter syndrome, right? Even if people genuinely compliment, and I, for myself, cannot take that compliment. If somebody says, wow, that's a beautiful purse that you're carrying. Oh, no, I got it at the sale, right? So why did I say that? I deserve to have a nice purse. And then,
or vice versa. If somebody goes, oh, what brand is that? What's wrong with saying it's from Target? I don't understand why people can't do that.
The other way around too, right? So having that confidence to represent who you are and then what you deserve, and taking the compliment, that in itself is like boosting confidence, right? So you covered the entire thing about all of us, we talked about network. All of these things are interrelated, right? having confidence, networking, being a mentor. Sonia, we are almost at the tail end of this time. I have a time check 2 minutes, but you talked about mentorship, right? At what point of, you mentor a lot of people. So where that mentor, at what point in the mentor becomes a sponsor, or something, the signals that we can get.
And I want to say what Radhika said. You don't want a transactional relationship. Mm-hmm. So when I was really struggling in my career about 15 years ago, and I had this coach, and he was amazing, and I said to him, Jerry, how can I pay you back? Because it was all voluntary. He was mentoring me, and he said, I want you to pay it forward. And so I always do my 3 work. I do peer counseling there. I work with survivors of domestic violence, but I really took what he said to heart, and I said I was going to help anyone who reached out to me. So what happens is there's a natural relationship. Not every person you mentor or you are being mentored with will be able to offer you something in return. However, there is a law of karma, right? So I'll give you an example. In the 6 months, every event I went to, I said, I'm open to mentoring you if you need help. When I presented at panels and I do webinars, etc., and people reach out to me. And sometimes it's happened that, in fact, this just last week, one of the women, she reached out to me and said, I need help. And we've been talking for about 3 months. And then a startup reached out to me and said they're looking for their first marketing hire. And I asked her, I said, are you interested? And she said, absolutely, I'm still looking for a job. But did this happen with all 27 of my mentors, people I've been mentoring? No. But remember this, that if you're completely focused on a transactional relationship, it'll come across. So I'm a mentor. I'm mentored sometimes by people, and you have to have a relationship that's based on trust, respect, kindness, and then things will start opening up. You can't go thinking that somebody's going to sponsor you and give you a job. No, I'm really.
That's some of the great advice, Sonia. That looks like we are 7 minutes over. The whole day we can talk about all of these things. And but what a fantastic morning! This Saturday is one of the best Saturdays ever since the COVID started for me personally. So I really take this time to thank you on behalf of American Tamil Entrepreneurs Association for being with us and sharing all your success and the lessons that you've learned. And I'm sure that the audience got a lot of takeaways from this conversation. And with that said, I would like to end this panel. Thank you again for all of you, being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know that it was fairly early on a Saturday to wake up, but like Janaki said, this has actually been one of the best Saturdays for me this year. Okay, so next we have the opening keynote address, and it is my honor to introduce the very accomplished Anna Anbuselvan to deliver it. Anna Anbuselvan is an industry veteran with more than 3 decades of experience in both enterprise and consumer industry verticals, working in Fortune 100 companies and global expertise in building companies and ventures. And she's also an Oracle veteran. She has a master's degree in computer applications from Anna University, India, and a master's in supply chain management from University of San Francisco and advanced project management from Stanford University. She's also an IEEE senior member, an ACM senior member, and a woman of influence.